I'm reading the pop-up explaining moderation, helping everyone feel safe. This would be something to look into for the future. Now, or maybe making videos that are not live. At any rate, this will be a short one. We're returning to the parable of the soils as a landscape for exploring typology. That is, the use of types, the use of figures of speech to define, reinforce, and explore possibilities of meaning, which, understood from another ray of light, is to understand the contingency, which I think from the French or Latin is the pressing in, the touching around, the silhouette of the thing, of the substance. So these things together in a sort of metonymic language that simultaneously puts forward propositions, but in turn questions them insofar as it the things it explains. Apparently my connection was unstable. We'll see if it still is here after I press stop recording. At any rate, in pursuit of that conclusion, which I gave with so many words, here is a section from Person and Eros. It should be clear from the above that the primary meaning of logic is not the putting together of a hermeneutic and determinative structure in accordance with a certain objective agreed order and set of rules, but the personal power of the reception and cognition of the logos of things, the encounter and coordination of the human logos, the internal, and therefore by opposition, the world's logos, the external, the outside, and the interfacing of these two in time and space. Is that what he means when he goes to the rather than encounter and coordination from certain objective agreed upon order and certain agreed upon objective set of rules? What would be an example of the former, or excuse me, of the latter? Take any agricultural proposition. In the history of human beings in society, where there's a farm somewhere, either in the immediate vicinity or around, there have been farmers, people who have, to one degree or another, understood the laws that cause change. In other words, growth, psychic revolution, cyclic, C-Y-C-L-I-C, and therefore produce a crop, a yield, a yielding strategy to the fate, to a wider world of possibility. And then there have been those who have not and yet have eaten, partaken of the crop. But what happens when the language of the laws of agriculture are embedded in the development of the soul of human being, wherever humans happen to be? This then brings in what initially is felt as a metaphor, but then becomes more than a metaphor. So the parabolic language of soils. Perhaps. Or in Mr. Yanaris's terms, logics, paralogics. So he says, logic is not the putting together of a hermeneutic and determinative structure. By hermeneutic, he's referring to the Greek gods Hermes, a messenger. So a hermeneutic could be interpreted as the interpreting principle. And determinative structure would mean the form following the function. So turn on the light. The determinative structure in most households is there's a switch, flip it, and then the light bulb comes on. This is the form following the function of go from one state to another, darkness to light. That would be quite different if you were in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by tree limbs that are either dry or not dry. So the primary meaning of logic is not the putting together of a hermeneutic and determinative structure in accordance with a certain objective agreed order. Well, everyone has a house. In a forest, everyone would say everyone has access to tree limbs. And if not a hatchet, then the random occurrence of lightning bolts. And set of rules, the praxis, the pragmatic accompaniment to objective things in space. Well, you cut it this way, or you set it on fire this way, or you flip the switch up into the on position, not the off position when you want the light. But the personal power, he's not talking about any of that, Mr. Yanaros. The personal power of the reception and cognition of the logos of things. The reception, so the receiving, and cognition, as it were, you become the filament that, the light, of the logos of things. The encounter, to go back with the idea of reception, and coordination, to go along with the idea of cognition. So he's making a parallel statement in the sentence of the human logos, with whatever defines the human, namely the coordinating and encountering being, with the world's logos, the simultaneous encountering and coordinating being. And to see this as an oppositional value structure, not in the sense of zero sum, I must give for the world to gain, the world must give in order for me to gain, instead of seeing it in such simplistic terms, to take it up rather in a Hegelian phenomenological hierarchy. And this is where I think Peugeot goes. That's all for today.